Mayor Alex Nuttall, during his inauguration address, raised concern about city's financial health, while at the same time pledging more resources for Barrie Police. We asked Barrie Police Chief Rick Johnston if the Barrie Police is getting more resources that should otherwise go to other services. We also talked to him about 14 new recent recruits and department's policy about diversity, inclusion, and anti-racism. He was at the City Hall for the launch of Anti-Racism Task Force's new website. Your thought on the launch of the anti-racism website, and how do you see the city dealing with racism in any form, and taking the pledge forward of anti-racism?
Well, I'm excited to see the website launch and the Anti-Racism Task Force. It's a sign of a learning community, and at the Barrie Police Service, we pride ourselves. We want to be a learning organization, and so when you see community groups like this and a website kicking off, it just bodes well for the community, broader level. I think our community is changing, and it's in the demographic in all ways, shapes, and forms, and that's indicative of a broader Canadian society. And in that diversity is strength. If everyone was the same, you lose the richness of the human experience, and this is looking to capitalize on it and recognize how important that is. So I'm excited.
And in terms of what initiatives city is taking, to educate the police force, to dealing with, especially racialized minorities, and sensitizing them with the cultural differences when they go out in the field, and
So again, we've just hired 14 new recruits, but part of their regular training is from a leadership perspective at the Barrie Police Service. It was incredibly important that they be cognizant of the diversity of our community and how important we value equity, diversity, and inclusion. So their first day on the job, all 14 of them, they were not sitting in a car driving around learning the city. They were learning about all the different community groups, the different social agencies and services, but also the different cultural groups within our society, within the city of Barrie, and how important it is to understand them from their perspective and the different customs. And I have to say, Barrie did not disappoint in how welcoming they were to the officers. So it was an excellent exchange of information. But our officers need to understand when they're going to a scene, it's so important to listen and to recognize when you're dealing with people of different backgrounds, different cultures, different races, certainly to recognize that, be cognizant of it, and it's not something that you just ignore. You have to be sensitive to it and certainly tailor your response or interaction.
Yeah, that leads to my next question about the 14 new recruits. And I don't have the information, but do any of the new recruits identify as racially, racial minorities?
And some of our recruits do. Now, and I did want to pick back up on what you'd said before in terms of what we're doing as a police service. So that's our new recruits. But part of our training of the new recruits, of the coach officers that would train the new recruits, was we're measuring the effect of racial trauma training on the officers. How effective is it? And over a period of time. So they were introduced to the training. 6 months later, we're bringing in academics who did the initial training to see what effect. Did it alter perspective? Did it have a lasting effect? Because we appreciate the awareness, but that's not enough anymore. We understand differences in our society, but what are we doing about it? Where are our actions? What are our concrete actions? Our service is all about evidence-based research. So we want to see, is there good training and does it have an effect? Because we want to make our officers very aware and alter their behavior if there is any, but certainly to be of a learning mindset so they understand something. And 6 months later, did it stick? Did it work? Because that's important. Simply talking about it's nice. What are you doing about it?
Yeah, and in terms of, do you have any numbers in terms of how much of the police force is racialized, and what initiatives the city is doing in terms of diversifying?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
But are there any initiatives in terms of having more racial minorities in the police force, and what initiatives?
So there are, as the Barrie Police Service, we want to reflect our community. We know part of our legitimacy and our ability to deliver our public safety service to the community is about reflecting the community. Our increasingly diverse community want to see their face in this uniform and be reflected. And that we're sensitive to, and the idea is when we're looking forward in our training, how do we tailor our recruiting strategies to different groups across the community? We need to reflect our community, and we are actively seeking to do that. And so I'm going to take this opportunity to any individuals out there from a diverse background, please, if you haven't thought about policing, it's an incredibly rewarding occupation to make your community safer and to have an impact on your community and individuals therein. So please, we encourage that. Our website, come by the station. We would love to see a broader diversity in the Barrie Police Service.
And just the last question, being racial minority, when I hear incoming mayor saying police force has been starving of resources for all these years, they need more resources, and there is a common there's a feeling that the police has too much resources.
Too much.
Yeah, police always has resources that they need, and there's also undercurrent that some of the resources need to be diverted to more helping people rather than providing to the police force. So in terms of how do you assure people that more and more resources going to the police, politicians asking for more resources to the police, and that insecurity that racialized people feel when that happens.
And so there's to have legitimacy within a community, that's about trust, and that's about building trust, maintaining it, creating that feeling of safety. And if it's only in part of the community, it's not satisfactory. The Barrie Police Service is well aware of that. We look across racialized communities, and not the Barrie Police, but policing in general and historically, there's been a fear, and I understand that in a Western civilization. Our job, our mandate, is to build that trust and to focus on it. When we talk about resources, it's a delicate balance. People want to feel safe, and we recognize that. The Barrie Police Service, when we think about police services, we think about the women and the men driving around in the uniformed cars, but we have so many diverse aspects to policing. So we sit on Collaborate Barrie, where we have an officer or police participate with all the different communities, and in a way to reach out to people that are in a state of crisis, acute elevated crisis. So as a way to divert them into from away from the justice. We are not the panacea. We are not the best way to deliver what the community needs for a whole host of reasons. The problem with our society and our community is generally after 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night, there's no one else. Are we the best? Absolutely not. Are there better subject matter experts? Absolutely yes. But we're the only 24/7 response. And there are things that we do as a service because there is no one else. Now, if resources were put there, great. But until they get there, we are. When people pick up the phone and need help, we are what's coming. Now, we can do better. We are trying to do better. We're cognizant of when we're interacting with the community that we're focusing on that. But at the end of the day, we have to recognize that it's not simply one or the other. It's about supporting the community with policing services for safety, but also actually supporting those community groups that are best able to deliver services better. And that can be for any area. I'm talking about mental health, racialized community, absolutely everyone. Because everyone needs to go to bed feeling safe.
In light of upcoming budget, we are doing an in-depth story on Barrie Police, its policies and funding. If you want us to cover any particular issue regarding Barrie Police, please email us at deepak@barriecommunitymedia.ca.